Words can't describe how excited I am to share this dream PC build of mine in the Fractal North XL. Welcome to another video, everyone. My name is Dennis and I create tech, gaming, interior design, and lifestyle content. Today I'll be showcasing the process of building a one-of-a-kind, minimal, and unique custom PC that matches my setup aesthetic perfectly. Fractal was able to make me a one-of-a-kind version of their white North XL by adding the front panel from the black version to this white case to match my theme. Let's take apart the case and get started with the build. As you can see, there's plenty of room in the rear compartment for cable management, and the front case connectors are here as well. Fractal also includes a lot of straps to easily tidy up at the end of the build, which is nice. Disassembly is super easy with all the thumb screws, no screwdriver is needed for this step. The tempered glass side panel is going to offer a nice view of all the components going into the build. I picked this case to better match the aesthetics of my living room, so let's start the build. First, let's break down the components that I'll be using. We have the Gigabyte Z790 Pro X motherboard, Gigabyte RTX 4070 Super Ice Edition, a Gigabyte 850-watt power supply, along with the Gigabyte WaterForce 360 Ice all-in-one liquid cooler. For the CPU, I went with the Intel i7-14700K, 4TB of M.2 storage from Crucial, 32 GB of white XPG RAM sticks, and a custom painted Noctua fan for the exhaust. I also picked up some custom cable extensions from CableMod to wrap up the white and brown theme. Alright, now let's prep the case for the build. First, I had to grab this leather desk mat to prevent any static. The front panel on the Fractal North XL is easily removable whenever you want to clean the mesh dust protector in front of the intake fans. You also want to remove this bracket and install it onto the power supply. Fractal also included a nice cable tie to tidy up the cables behind the PC. All of the hardware for this build is in this little box here. I really wanted to make this PC stand out from other Fractal builds, and I had some of this leftover contact paper that I used on my coffee table a few weeks ago, so I decided to add it to the case. It took a bit of attention to detail to apply, but I love how it turned out. Time to install the components onto the motherboard. This i7 will offer me more than enough performance with 8 performance cores and 12 efficiency cores that operate at over 5 billion cycles per second. When installing the CPU, make sure it's aligned properly and gently seat it onto the motherboard. Once it's in, you can clamp it down and then you can move on to installing the memory modules. I went with 2 DDR5 16GB RAM sticks with no RGB as I'm going for a more minimal look. When installing only 2 memory sticks, make sure to put them in the 2nd and 4th memory slot on the motherboard and secure them into place until you hear a click. Don't be afraid to apply a fair amount of pressure here. Next up is removing the SSD heatsink so we can install 2 TB of storage. Carefully align the M.2 with the slot and slide it in, then secure it into place. Now the fun begins. The motherboard is ready to be installed in the North XL. Carefully place it into the case and align it with the motherboard standoffs so it can be secured into place with the screws. Wow, that is looking really good already. Let's continue with the build and plug in the case front panel connectors onto the motherboard. First, the HD audio cable typically goes here on most motherboards. Then I installed the case USB and USB Type-C connectors here. Also, the power button needs to be hooked up properly, otherwise you'll finish your build and wonder why it's not turning on. The included fans also has one cable to be connected to a header. Next up is the all-in-one CPU cooler. These fans are daisy chainable, which means that they only need one cable to be installed onto the motherboard, making life a lot easier managing cables. You'll want to use these long screws to install the fans onto the radiator. Now it's time to put it into the case. I installed these in the exhaust position as the 3 fans at the front will be pulling air into the case. Now it's time to install the cooler onto the CPU. This bracket goes on the back of the motherboard and is secured into place with some standoffs. I use Arctic MX4 thermal paste in my builds to keep the temperatures in check. Make sure you attach the connector to your motherboard's pump header and the RGB cable to the RGB header. Next, I installed this Noctua fan that I custom spray painted white. This is starting to really come together now. It's finally time to install the white Gigabyte 4070 Super graphics card, and I decided to vertically mount it with the mount that is made for this case from Fractal. Since I'm vertically mounting it, the rear GPU brackets all need to be removed, and you simply install the PCIe cable into the PCIe port on your motherboard until it clicks into place. This graphics card is an absolute beast, and I can't wait to play my favorite games with it. Now we've made it to the final step before the moment of truth. It's time to install the power supply and hook up all the cables, including these beautiful custom braided cables from CableMod, to complete the aesthetic. I cleaned up the cable management in the rear compartment and the build is now complete. I am absolutely blown away with the look of this PC. So I actually pulled an all-nighter filming and building this PC, so here I am the next day. Before turning it on, I have one more addition to make this perfect. I found this cool grizzly bear figurine on a recent road trip in the Rocky Mountains, and I knew it would be perfect for this build. Now it's time for the classic peel part of the video. It's time to turn it on, and this looks incredible. There is a subtle amount of RGB in the case, mainly on the top bands, beaming light into the case, which I think looks really good. The CPU temperature is idling at around 28 degrees Celsius and everything is in working order. Wow, that turned out even better than I expected. Let me know what you think about the build in the comments below. Also, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video.